I don't know what's more impressive. The fact that Daniel Dubov crushed Javikir Sindarov 3 times, 3 brilliant moves, or the fact that he did it from his bed, on his side, leaning on the head, playing from a laptop. Goodness me, it's up there with Magnus Tabletsson's antics. This was game one of this crushing match. Dubov keeps it solid with the e-pawn. We get an Italian game, 10 minutes each player, online chess tournament. Magnus won the whole thing, of course, no surprises there. But these guys had a great battle in the first round. Dubov compromises his pawn structure, but opens the f-file. That becomes pertinent in the attack later on. And before you can say, show me your pull-up game, what a beast. There he is, not just a chess player, but an absolute unit. We see Javikir gain space. A6 to keep an eye on the pawn push. All of these natural moves now come on the board, and here comes Dubov's queen, sneaking into the game, knight rotating around, h3, because obviously bro, and now this one drops back. Extra covering the e-pawn, looking for d5, here it comes, surely there's no attack coming here. The white king safe as houses, many defensive pieces around it, knight now hopping forward, triple whammy in the e-pawn, and Dubov just calmly goes king h8. I've covered a lot of Duda games recently. He's on the mind. Queen c2. Rook a8's on the board here. Loads of little nudgy improving moves from both players. And we see the danger start brewing as the queen enters the position, as the king sidesteps. And this position is just red rag to a bull. Rook takes on f3 is played by Dubov. The first of 3 brilliant moves in my view. Now this one doesn't get the brilliancies. It gets the opposite. The other two actually do. They get the exclams. But I think this is brilliant. For a blitz game, so much pressure. And already you have to find rook g1, give back the pawn and go for defensive play by activating the pieces. Not found. The knight stumbles back to cover. Makes sense. But now the queen activates. If king g2 to cover the pawn, then d4's still coming, like we see in the game, and the king could be a bit airy. These pieces not defending properly, so we don't see that. We see queen d1, queen takes, queen f1 best, but not played. Let's crack on here. Couple more games to cover. This is an awesome move to break down the dark squares, and that's why we get this fight back. Hitting the knight before it can recapture here. Takes was played, pawn recaptures, and you can actually go for a line where you take and start munching here, if white starts munching here. But Dubov just drops back. Rook g1's played. Now we see the knight step in, going for that d-pawn. Rook hitting the queen, she backs off, and this queen just calmly covers things. But we can see the pressure, and especially after this sequence, we see the big problem with the f4 square. What a stallion it is, rotating into the game. We get queen e3, knight f4 there, and d4, fighting back on the dark squares, but of course, opening the bishop also. Knight b3 tried. Now we see the rook over to the g-file. This is the big counterplay for Javikir. Takes was played, hits the queen, bishop recaptures, knight takes. Hang on, can you not crash through here? Well, no siree. There's this awesome attacking idea. Knight d5. And you hit the queen and open up a checkmating threat. And white can't cope with all of those problems. So, we didn't see the rook takes. We saw instead queen takes. More pressure on g7. The excellent knight g6 in response. Can't take. Then you get mated, as previously highlighted. And you now attack the rook. It doesn't move because of all the issues. e5's tried instead. And we'll see the point. You give a pawn, but you laterally opened the queen. You go for the exchange. Javikir's fighting hard, but Dubov's just on fire. Takes here. And if you take now, well then there's this knight move. You hit a rook, and if you move a rook, you take a pawn with check, and you win a rook. And the end game's lost. Really awesome. And if you don't take the bishop, you take the knight. Well, now you can take here, and let's say here, and let's say here, and black's winning 3 pawns ahead. So let's back up. Rook 1 g2 was tried, but anyway the knight rotates in, and white's in a big world of pain. The 2 minors, always better than the rooks in such positions. Dubov now consolidates here, holds everything together, and here we see resigns. Because if you take, this endgame's lost. And if you don't take, you check. Well, this endgame's lost. Too much extra material, better material for black. So that was game 1. Game 2, Dubov now white. Another king's pawn game, but this time a scotch. And we get a slightly rarer bird here. Knight attacked, pinned, unpinned, knight d5. And now all the theory for decades starts with c4. I mean, there's some other moves, but this is the main one, right? But g3 has started being seen a few times at the top level. And it's the top engine move, so no surprises there. f6 is a good fight back move. But g6 is played, one of the standard setups, apparently an immediate c4 best, but this is the game. Both players tucking in, both players castling. Here comes the rook, overprotecting, but Sindarov's prepared in this line. He pins that pawn. He now pins the pawn again, or the queen drops. Knight d2 is therefore played. The centre collapses. Surely this is amazing for black. We'll look at this for some Dubov magic. He brings the bishop around. Knight backing up now to attack this pawn once more. You can't go b3 or you lose a rook. So we see knight b3. Get rid of the queen. You know, she can't take, of course. Backs up. Now you get bishop e3 in. Not enough pressure on the pawn anymore. It is well enough covered. d6 played. Perhaps d5 better. And the c-pawn now advances. Excellent play, because after takes, we get pawn takes here. Obviously, if you hadn't swapped the bishops and you'd gone for the triple pawns, well, there were problems in that line too. In this one, the bishop has to save itself, and then you take on c7. So the material is a little bit more balanced, even restored actually. But isn't this pawn going to drop? Well, there's trouble here. So c5 is played. Queen e4 is excellent. Dubov on fire this game. 9 minutes to just under 5. And there's big threats to take on c5. Loosen the protection of the bishop. And that's why we see Sindarov go wrong. Queen e8 is apparently best. But he plays rook e8. And the problem with this is it allows queen c6. Not possible if the queen had gone to the e-file, and when the bishop backs up, it's hugely cramped. And not just that, there's a brilliancy here. Knight takes on c5. And if that one's captured, the bishop bounces into the game. You can't save the queen here, or you drop a rook. If you now defend with a rook, well, then you can swap off and bring this one into the game. And this is such an unstoppable slow motion threat that you can almost resign. Because if you try this to cover the square, then you switch back with the rook and you're just winning a piece. Bishop moves, you win this bishop. This bishop moves, you win this bishop. And the mating attack doesn't work. Simply queen c6 covers the square and white's completely winning. So it's an amazing tactical idea. Dubov's barely used 2 minutes. Now we see takes on b2 therefore, because the knight was immune. Rook d1. Still you can't take the knight. There's too many problems down here with the rook and pawn and bishop entering the attack. So bishop e5 was tried. Knight d7. Fork down, baby. Queen e7. Knight takes. Queen takes. And this move finished the game. Sindarov resigned. Not prematurely. This is just a huge threat that you can't fight against. You know, there's no queen g5. There's no queen f6. If queen e7, then you can simply take even. Queen takes, rook here. And anytime you step over, there's this nasty check. Can't block, of course. You have to step. This is, of course, game over. Another crushing, wonderful game there by Dubov. Out-prepared, out-executed. Now we get another king's pawn game, and this one ends in an even more brilliant attack. A mating attack. Dubov playing the same line. These are the same moves we saw before, maybe in even the same order, or roughly speaking the same order. We get to somewhere around here, and it just deviates a little bit. The queen doesn't go on c2 like in the last game. Goes on e2. Dubov doesn't bring his rook to the e file. He pushes the a pawn. Different battle here. Queen side closed. Knight manoeuvring. White gaining the central space. And soon the better pawn structure. Let's see how things play out. Pawn takes. Big exchange there. Mass liquidation. Queen c4. And it looks great for white. You're hitting the queen side. These pawns are weak. This one could be weak. King looks pretty solid. But 5 moves from here, Sindarov resigns. How about that? We see bishop h4 now. Ignoring this threat, right? No meek, defensive, rook c8 stuff. This is a big problem. Of course, if this, well, you're just getting completely crushed after bishop takes. So we see bishop e3 to cover. And now rook f3. I mean, only one of these moves gets called brilliant, but they're all arguably brilliant. King f1 sidesteps the pin. Now rook back, rook d2. This one doubles on the file here. More pressure on the pawn, right? No immediate breakthrough, but it's brewing. The best move here is rook e to e2, and white's clinging on, but the mistake was made. Bishop c5. It hits that rook, which is attacking the king, and stays defending. Looks amazing, right? But here Sindarov's completely overlooked Dubov's brilliancy. He's unlocking the Tal magic. Queen c5. What an idea. Pawn's pinned, and after the queen steps back to help the defense, she slides in like this, and Sindarov resigns on move 29. Mate in 1 is threatened, and if you try and give some space, well then anyway you can check. King steps away, and you can crash through here. You could also take on g2, but this is the strongest. And you're either giving up your queen or running away, and I don't know all the best moves, but this one doesn't look bad. Okay, it is bad. You lose a rook, ignore me. After king e1, d1 rather, rook f1's apparently one of the best ideas. Makes sense. Converging 3 times here, so you haven't got time to take. And if takes, well then takes. Okay, many ways to finish it off. Just don't go with the way I would have done it. 3-0 there from Dubov, crushing Sindarov. Hope you enjoyed these games. Have a look at the video on screen if you want some more epic chess, and I hope to see you again soon. Cheers.